You guys know how strong my muscles are. I used to want to own a gym. Tried to start a gym, but it never worked out. Coming at you live from my empty house. Yes, it's basically empty. You can see I'm moving, so it's pretty much empty. But I'm recording. You're important. Your education is important. So let's talk about what we're doing today. We're starting a new text today. As you've noticed, probably in your Google Classroom, you have a new text called 3 Cheers for the Nanny State. Mr. Faber, when am I going to finish writing my final draft of my argumentative essay? No, it was a rough draft, and we're done with that, okay? We're done. And it was good practice for us. You are getting grades on that, so don't worry about it. You did good. Make sure it's done. If it's not done, you need to get that done at home. But today we are talking about 3 cheers for the nanny state. So go ahead and you need to pull this up in Google Classroom. So pause the video here and go pull that up in Google Classroom. Pause. Okay, so you are here with me. I'm going to, in this video today, I'm going to give you kind of like 2 parts to this video. One part is I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what we're doing and what this text is basically about. Then, if you're like, I know exactly what I'm doing, I'm going to go, then you can stop the video at that point, and I'll tell you when. Stop the video at that point and go on and do your work. What I will do is I will continue the video, though, if you need extra help or you want some further instruction, or let's say you get about halfway through this and you're like, I don't understand what to do. Then you can come back to the video and watch the second part here within this video, and I'll give you clearer instructions, okay? So, quick overview, basic instructions of what we're doing, then I will say stop the video if you'd like, and you can stop it and go work. Or you can keep watching and get more detailed instructions. So, basic instructions, here we go. 3 cheers for the nanny state. So, let's talk about this title real quick, and I'll give you some background. What do you think this means? What do you hear when you hear 3 cheers? What does 3 cheers mean? I'd like you to highlight this, 3 cheers, and I'd like you to write a note here. Is this a positive, negative thing? Is this a positive thing or a negative thing? What do you think 3 cheers means? Go ahead and type it in. Pause the video if you need to. Okay, I think 3 cheers is very positive. Very positive. It's like a celebration. It's like 3 cheers, yeah, 3 cheers for Bobby, 3 cheers for OMG-ELA. And then nanny state. Nanny state. If you've ever heard this term before, I'd like you to type in what you know about nanny state. If you've never heard this before, what do you think about a nanny? What if you call someone a nanny? Do you think that's positive, negative, or what is the meaning of a nanny? Go ahead and pause if you need to. Okay, so nanny is like a babysitter. And when we talk about the nanny state, state equals government. So, a babysitting government, does that sound like a positive or negative term? It's generally very negative, especially toward Americans. Most of us do not like the idea that the government babysits us. We like to have our freedoms. Negative term used as an insult. So, this title by this author is saying, hip hip hooray, yay for the government that controls what we do. Yay for the government that babysits every little thing we do. So we have to figure out if this author is being sarcastic, like maybe the author is like, the nanny state is horrible, and I'm just gonna be sarcastic. Yeah, good job, government. Good job babysitting us all the time. Maybe they're being sarcastic. Or maybe they're genuine and they're saying, you know what? The nanny state is, people complain about the nanny state, but I say 3 cheers for the nanny state. We need a nanny state. And So at this point, we come to our overall question for this unit, which is on our lovely document here. The evidence log, Unit 3 evidence log. You don't have to open this, but I do want you to look at my screen. When I look at this, I have this big prompt that we will consider for this entire unit. Is it important for people to make their own choices in life? With Barrington Irving, what do you think Barrington Irving would say to this question? Yeah, he would definitely say, yes, it's important for people to make their own choices. People told me that I should not go into being a pilot, that I should take the basketball scholarship, but I made my own choice and I'm so happy I did. Now I'm inspiring kids. I'm having a great time. I flew around the world, set a record. He made his own choices and he needed to be able to do that. But this is an argumentative unit. We're going to see the other side of this. Someone who will say, maybe it's not so great that we all make our own choices. And just hear them out. They may have a point. They may not. It's up to you. So, 3 cheers for the nanny state. This is all about choices. Should people be trusted to do this certain thing? Let me give you a quick background here. Let me tell you what the assignment is, and then I will say stop for those of you who want to get to work. Okay? So, the background of this article is that a few years ago, there was a law that was proposed. I'm not exactly sure if it went through or not, but there was a law proposed in New York City that said no company, no restaurant will be allowed to sell any soda over a certain size. They were saying these extra large sodas you can get, banned, not allowed to do it. And the question is, why would you ban large size sodas? And the government said, well, it's because it's a health problem. If a teenager goes in and gets a 32-ounce soda and drinks the whole thing, they're like poisoning themselves with sugar is basically what you're doing. Sugar is extremely unhealthy. Large amounts of sugar are even worse. And so they're like, well, since people order these things all the time, we'll just put a ban on it. That way we don't have people making choices for their health that is bad. And, there's an argument to be made there on both sides. And a lot of people were like, what? The government is controlling the size of cup you get at a gas station? That's the nanny state. They're trying to babysit us and control everything. And the other side was like, yeah, because if you can't control your diet, you're going to end up obese with diabetes, and then you go to the hospital, and then you're going to have to pay thousands of dollars. And you could say that's your own choice, but a lot of people don't pay their medical bills, and the hospital's out the money, and then It's a big problem with it's a big problem. So there are arguments on both sides, right? There are. And it was a very, very, very loud argument for a number of months. I remember on the radio, it was just like everyone was freaking out about the soda ban. So what I'd like you to do is, with this text open, go ahead and hide this image. Here you go, top right. And let me go over the assignment. This is what you will do for this assignment today for this video. There are 4 components. We're going to do comparing text, concept vocabulary, first read, comprehension check. Comparing text, concept vocabulary, first read, and comprehension check. I do want to make sure that with your first read, it says apply these strategies as you conduct your first read. And as always, we get this. I don't know if you can see it actually on my video. Maybe you can. Yeah, I think you can see this. So right here, it says to use this chart. I really just want you to look at this chart, fill out what you can, and ignore the stuff that you can't fill out. Okay, just do your best with it. The first read is really for you to highlight things that are important. And as we do our first read, as you do your first read, I want you to keep thinking about this evidence log in Google Classroom and writing down what are some pieces of evidence that might be good for you on this question. Positive and negative, okay? Maybe it's not important for people to make their own choices. Maybe people are not to be trusted with making all of their own choices in life. You need some argument for and against you in here. You're going to have some counter arguments and some counter claims and some rebuttals. So keep that in mind. Okay. Where are we? Here we are, textbook. So those of you who are ready to get to work, comparing text, concept vocabulary, first read, comprehension check, the first 4. You do those. If you feel confident to do that, read the text and do all those 4 things, then you may stop the video here. Okay. Now, the rest of us who haven't stopped the video, you want me to give a little bit of a closer tour on what we're doing. And let me do that. I'll go through each one of these little things and give you an idea of what we're doing. Playing this is helpful if you play it and read along, but it is important that you pause it if you get stuck. There were a couple places that I, even as the English teacher, needed to pause and go, wait a second, I don't fully understand the author's argument here. Let me reread that. So I would pause it and I would reread it and go, okay, that's what the author is saying. And is it Sarah? Yes. I go, oh, that's what she's saying. So remember that as you read through this, pause it as needed. Let's talk about comparing text first of all. This is very short. It just says, in this lesson, you will read and compare 2 selections that present different arguments about the same issue. First, you will compare the first read and close read activities for 3 cheers for the nanny state. Okay, so that's all we're doing. We are going to do the first read and close read for this. Then we're going to get another text in a couple days. That's it. You're done with comparing text. Concept vocabulary. As you conduct your first read of the 3 cheers for nanny state, you will encounter these words. Before you read, rate how familiar you are with each word. Then rank the words in order from most familiar 1 to least familiar 5. So you will click this out, and I do believe it's showing that to you. And you'll say impose, and you go, impose. I don't know exactly what that means. Maybe I'm like 3 on that one. Rational. Oh yeah, that means, so I know exactly what that means. So I'm going to put a 1. Justifiable. Yeah, pretty much a 2. Principle. Yeah, I know what principle is. Status quo. What? Nope. I don't know what that is. I'm putting a 10. I'm just kidding. Not a 10. 5. Okay, so you just rate them like that. Then you will do your first read. And like I said, you don't actually need to fill out this entire chart, really just these sections here. The general idea of the text and the annotation you can't fill out. This is one of those things you can't fill out because the annotation is where you underline and make notes. So where it says annotate, that's where you're going to come over here and highlight this and say, actually, I disagree. Okay, that's your annotation. You don't need to put your annotation anywhere else. You don't need to put it in this chart over here. Okay? This chart, no annotation needed. Connect. This is good to review like what you know about the text and what you don't know about the text. So do that. And respond by completing the comprehension check. This you really can't fill anything out here. It just says complete the comprehension check, which you'll do. So really, these left 2 are the only ones you can do. Boom. And then finally, comprehension check. You will just complete all of these questions. The hardest question here for sure is number 2. It asks, what is cognitive bias? Cognitive bias. Well, cognitive bias is made up of 2 words, and the word cognitive, which means thinking and what happens in your head, thinking, and bias, meaning leaning one way or the other. So thinking a certain way or another. Now in the text, they have a really specific definition of it. Here it is, cognitive bias. And you'll notice that as you try to find the definition of cognitive bias, it says they call such a tendency a cognitive bias. And you go, what tendency? So let me go back a little bit. What tendency? A number of areas in which we fairly dependably fail. That doesn't help me very much. So I got to go back even more. Research psychologists, blah, 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 blah. There's nothing in there. So I got to go back further. We are all prone to identifiable and predictable miscalculations. So we are all prone to, that means we can all suffer from predictable miscalculations. Means things that we think are true, but turns out they aren't. It's like, I think 2 + 2 = 4. 2 + 2 = 3. Oh no, I'm wrong. So a calculation that was wrong, okay? So I'm not giving you the definition of this right now. What I'm saying is you have to look in the text and look for this word bias. Bias here. Bias here. You really have to look at the words and look at the definitions to come up with an idea of what cognitive bias means in your own words. After that, you are done, okay? Filling out all of these 5 questions here. Working on, again, your comparing text, concept vocabulary, first read, and comprehension check. Then you will be finished. And I will see you guys some other time. Adios.